This week we're finishing Twilight by Stephenie Meyer, aka the PANOPTICON. The PANOPTICON! The PANOPTICON!
Hi readers, I'm Jordan.
And I'm Katie.
And welcome to Not Another Heroine, the podcast where we break down the best and worst fictional heroines, those swashbuckling ladies who have to work a little harder than expected for their happy ending.
Want to see what's next on our TBR list? Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Instagram for a sneak peek at upcoming content or to help us pick our next book. Your girl does not remember anything about part one.
That's fair. We had lots of shots during part one.
Yeah, and we did not even mispronounce that much, but we still had shots. Anyway, so Bella and Edward have arrived at Edward's Meadow, i.e. one of the most iconic reoccurring locations of this whole fucking series. You know, they go there for funsies. It's kind of a bright day, and Edward's going to show Bella what he looks like in the sunlight. Anyway, we get Edward feeling a smidge more comfortable around Bella, some light groping, some light kissing. And then Edward, in typical Edward fashion, has like a little bit of a temper tantrum breakdown and proceeds to remind Bella how very mortal she is and how very immortal he is. You know, throw around some big sticks, break some shit while she's terrified. A little bit terrifying. I don't think that's a hot take. I think that's
a bit terrifying. That's not okay because he's literally like, you should fear me. I can kill you now. You know what? I think I quoted this. Maybe it's a movie quote.
I could see that.
But I think I remember this specific scene where he's like, I have killed people.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, that's okay. It's fine. He's like, I want to kill you. That's even more okay. It's fine. I love you. And in this scene in the meadow, he's like, look at my awesome display of strength and speed. And you don't even have a choice. Like, I want you to be with me. But if I wanted to eat you, I could.
Well, I don't know if it's in this scene or if it's shortly before or shortly after, at the very least, where he talks about, I paraphrase, he says that basically you are a fragile egg, and if I'm not cautious, I will break you.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about his having to conserve his strength every time he touches her face or something like that. So It's a little weird.
Yeah. So really, all of Edward's posturing still comes down to the fact that he's terrified by the fact that Bella isn't even like remotely scared of him, even though, you know, he could hurt her. And, you know, he, like some hardcore Christian parents, is like, I'm going to instill the fear of God in her. And that's where this whole like temper tantrum comes from, is him like, I'm going to show you exactly what I can do. But she's still in that like, oh my God, I love you. Like anything you do is not terrifying at all. Oh, but it is. And obviously it doesn't work because Bella's still like, oh my God, I love you. Anything you can do cannot really hurt me because you feel some sort of way behind it. And so we get the quintessential A+, you know, lamb scene where she's like, that stupid lamb. And then he's like, sick, masochistic lion, super iconic.
Carries over into the movie.
That it does. There are so many lines that carry over like specifically explicitly from the book into the movie, and I'm kind of here for it even though it's problematic.
So like lines like that kind of resonate, I think, as a reader too, like, oh, like this is exactly what this scene needs right here, but also like, super problematic as you're reading it.
Because just the fact that like he knows better. Like I feel like a lion doesn't maybe necessarily know better because it's acting, you know, in its nature. But Edward for sure knows that she is, you know, this cute little lamb that cannot do, you know.
17 years old to like 100 plus. There's some problems there.
Maybe some problems. Anyway, Edward reveals that he was born in Chicago in 1901 and was found by Carlisle in a rando hospital dying of like the Spanish influenza or whatever. And then he also notes that Esme,
take a shot, girl. No.
Oh my God.
Shot. Esme.
Do it.
We believe in you.
That's a whole shot. Okay, there we go. That was a whole shot, ladies and gentlemen. A whole shot.
We applaud you, Katie.
That tasted like raisins.
It did taste like raisins.
I can't untaste the taste of raisins since you made that comparison.
I have a gift for this.
He does. So Edward notes that Esme fell off a cliff, a little bit later, and, their little ragtag family was started. Esme was not, just yeeted off a cliff. She yeeted herself off a cliff after losing her child, which fair response a little bit. But Edward, ever the gentleman, kind of like put a little, emotionally plausible, morally plausible answer on that. Don't love it, but that's what happened. Next, he explains what happened to Rosalie, which means that he doesn't touch on it at all. He just says that Rosalie was brought into the family. And then Emmett, he kind of actually touches on, and he said that he was devoured by a bear, which is funny that he now hunts bear for sport. Kind of a weird vendetta of sorts, apparently.
Is Rosalie's story revealed in later books? Because we're not going to be reviewing the...
No. But yes, it is.
Okay, so her story is heartbreaking.
It's really fucking traumatic.
Like, okay, so to put it bluntly, she was, I think, gang raped?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the not even that aggressive side. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely horrible.
Yeah. Which is crazy too, because it explains her aggressive opinions about everything between Bella and Edward. And it's kind of in the first book just like glossed over. But I feel like that's an absolutely like legitimate point to come from, that she's like, I went through this absolutely horrific experience. Like, I don't think that you should be in a like eternal human being. Like, this is a, penitentiary of, you just have to live even though you don't want to. It's like, I feel like her feelings are valid. And it's treated as if Rosalie's kind of a bitch, which I don't love.
Yeah, no, I don't like that either. And I'm trying to save a lot of my comments regarding Rosalie for the movie.
That's fair.
Because she gets great representation in the Twilight movie. That's the one thing they do really well.
That's fair.
Portraying her character.
Yeah.
But in the book, she's just kind of glossed over.
Yeah. She's like a side character. I don't even think they really talk about her. She probably gets like 3 sentences, which outrage. Rosalie deserves better. Anyway, so Edward and Bella are like at Edward's house during this point. He talks about, everyone else in his little ragtag family, but now he's talking about Jasper and Alice. So Jasper belonged to some other family, and then he's brought into their family, and he doesn't really go into any more detail. And then Alice, he says literally jack shit about. So Alice lived as human in like darkness, and then all of a sudden she was a vampire, and then she saw a vision and found Jasper and then joined their family. We get a little bit more later, but like her story, really fucking tragic, like equally, if not a little bit less, but maybe equally as tragic as Rosalie's, which also I find a tad bit traumatic and questionable and problematic, that the fact that only the female characters had really traumatic, problematic backstories, but the males, like Emmett, just got mauled by a bear. And Jasper had his whole, Spanish-American War, was in charge of armies of newborns or whatever. And like, that's obviously traumatic. But like, why did Rosalie and Alice get these like really fucked up backstories? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. They're both very violent, very like, I don't know what the right term or phrase for it is, but it's like this female-centered aggression and violence.
Yeah.
Do you know what it is?
Yeah.
Based on what I heard, no. Like,
Okay.
walk me on to target here.
So Rosalie is gang raped and like nearly to death. And then Alice is put into a mental asylum, in the early 20th century, where it's basically a death sentence. It's just this very like female-centric abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I feel like when they had a button word here, which is, it's not that it's female-centric, it's that it's patriarchal, which is to say that, like, it's male-dominated society, and like, oh, you're divergent, you're a woman, you've had the following experiences, like that. Like, now we're going to treat you with electricity across the brain pan, so.
Yeah. I feel like that's not really a hot take. Because, you look at Emmett's experience and then you look at Jasper's experience, they're almost like quintessential of like maleness. If that makes sense. Like Emmett's like literally
like
mauled by a
bear. And then Jasper's like, I'm fighting a war.
Yeah. And like fighting in a war well.
Yeah, this goes back to the sort of 2-dimensional framework I'm saying Edward was drawn within,
Yeah.
which is that, I know what this podcast didn't need was like a male, middle-aged, white, cisgender perspective, but like, those are also pretty standard archetypes. Like these are sort of, I don't know the adjective, Epictetian. I'm not sure, but like from Epictetus. I don't know that I may owe you a
Google
shot. Yeah.
Define, please.
I may
What does
owe
that
you a
mean?
shot. Yeah.
Edward also reveals that he's been to Bella's house and also watched her sleep every single night.
And that is one of the most problematic elements of this whole fucking story, which is like, even if you can't sleep, even if you're immortal, never okay.
Yeah, because like from the 17-year-old's perspective, again, it's like someone thought that I was interesting enough to watch sleep. And even though I talked in my sleep, it was like cute. Like, again, that's problematic because it's like, why is that man spending his waking hours watching you sleep? I did not mispronounce anything. He's holding a shot glass as if I'm, accused of a crime.
I just love the fact that he's holding a Cinderella shot glass.
Yeah. I was just announcing shot fired. Like I just downed my shot. Just so no one in the listening audience would miss the fact that I did do my shot, even though we're not entirely convinced Epictetean is not a word.
I would be super uncomfortable if, like, as a teenager especially, like, someone's watching you sleep.
Yeah, because again, it's like intruding on your very vague, very, small conception of privacy. Like, as a 17-year-old, your privacy only really extends to your bedroom, really. And like, not even then, because even your cell phone is kind of like up for grabs for your parents, especially in the modern age, that they can really kind of like look at whatever you're doing. And it's kind of that like, what is the word? I love saying it at work, and now I'm forgetting. It's a circle, and it's a little thing in the middle, and they can see everything that you're doing, but you can't really see them, and there's like mirrors and stuff.
But there's
I have no idea where you're going with that. That's
Rob, you're supposed to know what this means. It's a concept, so it's a big like circle building, and there's like prison cells on the outside, and like by fancy, well-established mirrors, they can see whatever is going on in the cells.
PANOPTICON?
Yeah, the PANOPTICON.
Are you kidding me? Well, you get to take a shot, though.
What? Why?
Because it's not just mispronounced words. It's words you struggle to find. Yeah.
Have a shot.
I don't have anything
for
in
yourself.
It's a well-chosen word.
But again, it's the panopticon concept. So she has this one free space that is free of the male gaze. She can do whatever she wants. And then her crush is immediately introduced in this panopticon concept of like, he is watching her. He knows what she's saying. But thankfully, in Bella's head, probably not, suspect to Edward's gaze, is that she is thankful that he does not know what she's like talking about, and thank God by exception that she is thinking about him. But it's like, how is the one place that she's safe is somewhere that he has intruded upon, and the only thing that she's thinking about is him?
Oh, I felt like I was going to add something just a moment ago by saying that he also gets to eavesdrop on the far side of the conversations that she has, because she can listen to the minds of people she's conversing with. But then you hit us with a way harder point, which is that he has even intruded upon her private domicile of her bedroom. Like, that's a way better point.
She's not even upset about that. That's what really threw me in the book, was reading that. Like, I would be horrified. Oh my God, I no longer can change in the privacy of my bedroom. Like, there's this visitor in here who's going to watch me without me knowing, like outside of my control. Like, does Bella have any expectation of control over Edward's behavior?
But again, like as a 17-year-old, seeing yourself in these like very raw, very like unemotionally guarded or like emotionally unguarded moments, like, is that not the dream that someone sees you in these moments where you're just being yourself and they accept you? Or at least from the 17-year-old perspective, that this is like true love.
Yeah, as a fantasy element, yes. Does a 17-year-old want that to be seen when they can't be seen? Absolutely. But is there an alternative to that fantasy that's also a fantasy that's more healthy and not damaging to like the 17-year-old psyche? Could we present a different fantasy to a 17-year-old reader that is more acceptable and wouldn't set them up for a lifetime of like poor expectations when it comes to their relationships?
this might be controversial, but I don't know that I've read a lot of books that like meet that high threshold.
Let's look at the books we've reviewed. So Graceling.
Yeah, even that is kind of like they have this kind of like almighty, all-knowing perspective of what you're thinking at all times, and that's the only reason that they're accepting of who you are. Because even like the book that I just reviewed for our pick of a week, again, timelines are not syncing up at this point. That will come in like 2 or 3 weeks. But Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood, like he has some kind of like paranormal like understanding of what she's thinking, and that's like not the intent behind it because it's modern romance, but he seems to know all of her insecurities at the point that she's having them, and it's like, is that realistic?
That's, I think, the female fantasy, which is this omnipotent.
Oh girl, that's a shot. If I took a shot earlier for mispronouncing a word, I didn't even know it was a word.
Off you go.
There she did. She did it. There she
It
did.
was so bad. It was so much raisins.
All the raisins.
But it's the fantasy that like your sexual desire knows what you want without you articulating it.
Yeah. But not even sexual desire, just like romantic desire. Like understanding as a person that someone sees you and understands without any kind of like gauze of, you know, anything. They see you as you are. Like, that's such a sad premise.
So, yeah, this comes back to what I was saying, is that he seems to be a character drawn around the idea of like, all right, what would ultimate wish fulfillment look like? And it's not that it's problematic because, you know, it's a hot button issue to identify, you know, patriarchal issues of control and things like that. It's that it's a bit disturbing to see a character with virtual omniscience. He gets to overhear the thoughts of every person she converses with. She's the only exception, which I grant you that's an interesting caveat to his power. He's omniscient. He's omnipresent. He goes wherever she goes. Things like that. It's disconcerting because, not just because like, all right, there's a very serious power dynamic here between a 17-year-old girl and a 100-year-old man with experience and extreme powers. It's also the fact that, honestly, from a literary perspective, a lot of this just goes unexamined. Yeah. Like, that's really interesting stuff. I'm not saying that it's not interesting or that it shouldn't work its way into the books, because this is the sort of thing that you would expect to find its way into a narrative, into a literary portrayal of a very unusual, abstract, bizarre relationship. Mm-hmm. It's just that as interesting as these details of these characters are, we just gloss over them and they very, very rapidly profess their undying love for one another, and then they go to prom. Yeah. So, sorry, I'm skipping ahead in the narrative.
But that's an absolutely valid point that I feel like a lot of people kind of underwrite Twilight or just kind of bypass Twilight as this very like cult fiction moment or movement for, you know, 14 to 17-year-old girls during this period. And they kind of bypass all of the underlying emotional resonance with the book and the character. And they're just like, oh, you know, this is cult fiction, like there's no underlying emotional ties behind this, but it's like there absolutely is. There's a reason it was so fucking popular. Yeah. And we just kind of bypass maybe the problematic points. And that's the part that I kind of find interesting was Stephenie Meyer speaking from her own personal experience, or was this like trying to bring attention to the points that, 14 to 17-year-olds in this certain time period, like, are there problematic things that they're seeking in their emotional and romantic relationships? Or is this like this is something that like people are seeking, like, let's talk about it and nobody does? Or is it like, hey, like, this is a fucking problem that so many people are like, emotionally resonating with the story? Like, are we going to talk about it? And nobody did? Like, I kind of wonder about her intent. Like, was she coming into this like, absolutely, we should fucking talk to this? Or is she like, this is my experience and like, is this wrong? Is this problematic? And people can kind of draw their assumptions from that? Or was she like pointed about it?
Yeah, and I think that's where one of the challenges and I think it does genuinely become problematic, because when you ask what through what lens do we analyze this? One is the perspective of the 17-year-old girl, or more alarming is it the perspective of think of like modern men's rights activist types.
Yeah.
who are like, oh yeah, this is what women want.
Incels.
They want a domineering, potent force to insert himself into their lives, and he needs to be mysterious and controlling and authoritative.
Yeah.
Like, that's another perspective on the relationship here. Like, I'll grant you, I don't think a lot of men's rights activists are reading Twilight and deducing.
But they should.
But it's scary if they do. You know what I mean? Like, that'd give them more ammo to be more scary.
Yeah. I mean, there's another perspective too, which is just a purely literary perspective. Like, you know what, are these realistically drawn characters? Can we imagine human people, surviving the human condition, reacting to the circumstances in the ways described in this book? From Bella's perspective, I say yes, but I maintain that Edward's perspective is problematic and poorly drawn. It's problem. Did I say problem? I may have a shot. Yeah, I may have a shot. It's problematic. It's problematic because it is poorly drawn.
So problematic from Edward's perspective, but not problematic from Bella's perspective. Like, that's a very reasonable perspective to draw if you are Bella the speaker.
And I think that's the difference between like understanding the audience and the purpose of this book, because I like to think that with some of the books we read, there is a very like definitive line between fantasy and then writing something that's extremely realistic and is trying to send like a message to relate to the real world.
Yeah.
Right? For a 17-year-old paranormal fantasy, like, you want complete escapism where your reader can identify that, oh, this is fantasy. This would never occur in real life.
Mm-hmm.
This is just for like, you need to get away from the shit that is your real life and just sit in this fantasy character that can read your mind, read what you want and desire, and take you away from your monotony of the day-to-day. I don't know. I don't know what the reason is for why Twilight was created. Is it escapism? Is it to send a message? Anyway.
Yeah. I feel like that's almost the line. Like, is your story meant to be a warning almost, where it deserves kind of like that trigger warning of like, hey, this is something you might be feeling, but this is why it's problematic? Or is it like this is speaking to that 17-year-old desire that you feel that you can't really put like words to? And it's like almost like a commiserating. Like, and I feel like books like this almost kind of deserve a trigger warning of like, hey, like, even if you're feeling like this, the way that Edward treats you, if you have a relationship like this is not equal. This is not something that you should seek. It's a controversial topic. Like, is that what trigger warnings are for? That, this is the wisdom of age and coming back and looking at the story as like a 27-year-old or 30-year-old or 40-year-old or 50-year-old, and coming back and be like, oh, wow, this is like problematic. Or is that from the perspective of like, this is something that is traumatic to all ages, you should beware? You know what I mean? Controversial. Hot take. I have left my audience speechless, which is Robin Jordan, which is not much of an audience.
Wow. That was rude.
You guys are the epitome of an audience, but not in numbers wise.
Okay. So staying on with the plot so we can actually finish part.
Yeah. So she says that, or he says that he's watching her sleep and she's like, oh my God, like what? And he's like, yeah, I saw you like sleep talk. And he's like, I feel like we've gone from a really dramatic, take to the very mundane, but it's fine.
That's okay. But that's very demonstrative.
Wow. Good word. Nice job.
Is that correct?
Yes. Is it a shot if you think that you didn't say that
it
right?
ought to be, right?
Okay, so of this book, though, because it alternates between sending this very important message at times and being kind of superfluous.
Mm-hmm.
No, you didn't. Superfluous.
I felt like that was right, though.
Superfluous?
Does it count that she doesn't have to take a shot if I thought it was right? Or is that like a universal?
They warned you that I was a snob, right?
Snob.
Superfluous?
But also, like, what a good fucking point. Anyway, so Edward and Bella go to the field, Edward's meadow, and then they go back and have these, like, conversations. And then Edward spends the night, but not in the, like, teen fantasy fiction way that you would perceive would happen. They just have some, like, weird kind of conversations / candid conversations about, like, what that means for them, but like also not really. And like Edward has this very like real moment about it. He's like, oh, I've read, jealousy in books and plays, and like I thought I knew that what jealousy was, but I didn't really understand it until I experienced it, which I feel like is a very, human perspective on things, that you can understand jealousy abstractly and then you experience it for the first time and you're like, oh my God. But anyway, they have this, drawn out conversation while Bella's pretending that she doesn't want to, have sex with Edward because apparently he's weird about that. Bella then asks the question, but she kind of like shies away from it. And she's like, oh my God, I'm not going to ask this. And he's like, what are you going to ask? And she's like, oh my God, I can't ask it. And he's like, please just fucking ask it. She wonders if vampire weddings are the same as regular weddings. And this was the point.
Sex.
Okay, so this was the point that I felt uncomfortable because I feel like regular 17-year-olds are not thinking about weddings as a precursor to marriage. They're just thinking about like sex as is, and then like wedding is like something you do in the future. The fact that she's talking about weddings instead of sex was a very interesting point to me, even at 17 and also at 27.
We'll circle.
Whoa, girl.
I'm going to edit the shit out of that.
No, I think that deserves a shot.
No, I can't take any more shots. I won't
That's
be able
fair.
to pronounce simple words like circle.
That's fair. See, it's exacerbating.
Oh
no.
She tried to say that word earlier.
Okay, so not to talk about like childhood trauma, but that's how my like AP history teacher said that word. So
And I played into that somewhat at work as an editor for
no.
Katie's work.
Is it not exacerbating?
Where I have deliberately lied to her about
Exacerbate.
the correct pronunciation of words.
New T.
Exacerbate?
Exacerbate.
Oh.
New T. Exaggerate and exacerbate.
Yeah. I've deliberately lied to Katie on occasion about the correct pronunciation of words and exploited her trust in my seniority and experience and things like that. And I am a monster for it. Which, incidentally, is a parallel to the Bella-Edward relationship where she's like, well, you got 100 years of experience. I guess I'll just trust the things that you say. You're probably right. Like, fucking wrong.
Oh, no.
Manipulative and abusive.
We have a real-life example of why this is problematic. Oh no!
I know it induces psychoses that just didn't need to be there. They just didn't need to be there.
Apparently, but even more almost problematic than them talking about marriage at 17 instead of sex is the Edward's response to that, and he said, "I don't think that that would be possible for us." Ouch. Could you imagine that your 17-year-old boyfriend that you're talking about, sex in the abstract by using marriage as like a, 1-for-1 turn? Yeah. And he's like, I don't think that would be possible. Could you fucking imagine? I cannot. I am blinded by the embarrassment and immediate suicidal tendencies that I would experience. But again, Bella just glosses over that. She's like, oh, you don't. Okay, well, anyway, we're going to talk about something else. It's like, girl, do you hear what he's saying? Like, he doesn't want to have sex with you. He does not want to marry you. And yeah, it's for some kind of like moral, answer, but that's never an answer. Like,
we need to trademark that sound.
That's
fair.
fair.
It was kind of a Katie version of Ayuga.
Oh.
Ayuga.
But like a questionable Ayuga. Like, no, Ayuga.
Ayuga?
Oh. Anyway, again, Bella's like, oh, you can't marry me because it'd be like too hard for you, right? And he's like, no, I'd be more, worried about totally destroying you and murdering you on accident. Which again, questionable. When I was reading it, I'm like, oh yeah, he's just like super strong and like amazing and like he'd be worried, it has to, restrain his strength. But again, the drunk hot take is that this is disturbing.
Yeah, okay. So the whole premise is that Bella is supposed to admire Edward for having the strength to withstand his internal urges to fucking murder her.
Yeah. It kind of feels like incel,
Yeah.
like validating.
Yeah.
Oh, I hadn't made that connection. Yeah, a little bit.
Like, I feel the need to murder you, but I also...
You poor, weak female. You can barely walk in a straight line without stumbling over yourself. 1, let me drive you home. 2, let me make sure you're sleeping correctly. 3, do you love me? You shouldn't love me, but let me tell you why.
This makes me so sad from a Twilight is my comfort movie perspective because it's still my comfort movie, but it is so problematic. Anyway, the next part of this almost gets worse. Edward asks, like all other teenage boys, if Bella has ever had sex. And Bella's like, what? No, I've never felt this way about someone before! Exclamation point. That was questionable. I probably should take a shot, but for health reasons, I should not. Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. And then they kind of bypass that by, Bella saying that she's just gonna go to bed. And Edward's like, yeah, it's, good. Also, don't understand the weird kind of like virgin, paralysis that Edward is experiencing, that he thinks that Bella needs to be a virgin in order for them to have like a regular relationship. But again, that is explained by his being from the 1900s, even though like that's problematic also in the 1900s, but we just bypass that. Yeah, Bella's a virgin. Edward is a virgin. Edward feels some kind of way about Bella not having had sex with anyone.
Where are we in the story?
This is a conversation when Edward spends the night for the first time.
Not the first time, just the first time that she knows about it.
Okay, that's
right.
Consent.
Fair distinction.
Yeah, but the first time that Bella knows that Edward is spending the night, they have this conversation. And it's kind of like alluded to that Bella wants to have something like physical occur.
Oh yeah, I just a red-blooded human male. I was like, is this happening or not?
Yeah. And Edward's like, I will eat you instead, and not in the way you want.
Yeah, and then he's like, but I mean,
I got money says that gets edited out.
I don't think so, honestly, because it's a valid point, because also at the same time, he's like, but have you had sex with anyone else? And I feel like the only answer he would have accepted was like, no, you're the only one. And that is what happened. And again, problematic. But again, from the 17-year-old perspective, it was like, oh, that's so cute. But from the 27-year-old perspective, not so cute.
And what about from the 100-year-old perspective?
Super not cute.
Yeah, right?
That's the episode title, is Super Not Cute.
Super not cute. Moving on.
Yeah, the next morning, Edward offers for Bella to come meet his family, and reasonably, she's like less concerned about meeting a bunch of vampires / going into a coven, and she's more concerned about like meeting her boyfriend's family for the first time. And like on the one hand, girl, same, because meeting your boyfriend or spouse's or partner's family is absolutely fucking terrifying. But also on the other hand, like, you were going into a vampire coven, and I have seen, I Am Robot a couple of times, and the concept of walking into a dark space where there are scary things is scary, and she's not concerned at all about being scared. Inside the house of the scary things, everyone except Rosalie and Emmett are there, and they're all kind of like trying to walk really slow, no sudden movements. So Bella isn't aware of the fact that they're like not human. And Alice is like, zoom, zoom, I'm a vampire, in a very Alice fashion.
That was adorable and completely like Alice.
Yeah.
That is fair. Also, I want to caveat, at the time of recording, but not at the time of publishing, I talked about Love Theoretically, and I love the fact that Elise, the main character of Love Theoretically, has some kind of like weird obsession with Bella Alice fanfic. I ship it now that I know that that is a ship to be shipped. I heard it.
I'm heading to Urban Dictionary right now.
Because also Alice, like, this is a little bit later, Alice is the only one that asked Bella if she wants to be picked up and like yeeted somewhere. And no one else asks her. Everyone else just kind of picks her up and vampires away. But Alice is like, is this okay? And she's like, yeah, sure. And then gets vampire yeeted away. So Bella and Alice supremacy. Honestly.
I could not relate to Alice as a character at all.
I couldn't either, but now viewing it from the lens of love, theoretically, I can, which is weird.
It's interesting because when I first read Twilight, I'm like, Rosalie's a fucking bitch. And now, like, looking back, I'm like, I love Rosalie.
Yeah, it's like she's the only one that was like reasonable throughout this whole thing. She's like, you should continue to be human.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we're not going to talk about that until the weird unspecified unscheduled date that we talk about New Moon or whatever book Rosalie explains her story.
We are not doing any more books in this series.
That's fair because we're talking about too much emotional trauma.
But I really wanted to read books 2 through 4.
You should just read them anyway. Anyway, this next scene, Edward flexes on the piano and Bella's taken on a tour of the house. In the movie, which we will talk about in part 3, which is the next part of this, if we get to the next part, because we're talking about the movie so much throughout the book. This is Bella's, I want to say nightmare, but that is not the word. Sonata, that's also not the word.
Were you talking about the song?
Yeah. There's a word
like
for
Bella's Lullaby or something.
Oh, there it is, called Bella's Lullaby. Yeah, I know how to play Bella's Lullaby.
Are you
Girl,
shitting me?
what?
You're shitting me.
I do. I learned it because I was obsessed.
It is a lullaby because he keeps humming it while she's asleep and all that.
Also, I am the only one in this room that does not know how to play the piano, and I feel a little bit
inferior. No.
That's the word. I was saying insignificant in my head, and that's not the word. I'm not insignificant, just a little bit inferior.
You're not insignificant. Maybe just a tad inferior.
That's fair. Yeah.
Wow. This dick. Jesus.
Anyway, so this is like the only like really unbiased opinion I had throughout this book. So this next part was really interesting. So Edward gives Bella a tour of the family history. So he goes into Carlisle's office and he's like, look at all these pictures. Let's talk about it. This was really fucking interesting. Like, I wish this had been a bigger part of book 1 and had been like an overarching theme instead of just being relied upon in book 4 as like a, catch-all to solve all of their problems. Was Edward's kind of explanation that Carlisle was born as a preacher's son in the 1600s, and then he was out hunting vampires at his father's behest and actually like found one on accident, but then like by the grace of God, he found one, but I made a pun and no one recognized it. He like found an actual vampire, but was like only bitten and then hid in a pile of potatoes, and he was okay. So this was something interesting, and I feel like it should have been talked about a little bit more than it was. Carlisle had this whole like era of self-loathing, which we do not love. And then he decided he was going to try to like save people. And so he went to Italy to go study medical science. And then he met the scary overlord vampires that we now know as the Volturi, but then we did not know as the Volturi, Ero, Marcus, and Caius. This was a super interesting interlude that we did not get enough time with. He just had this as like this, just talk he was giving as he was, introducing Bella to his family history. It was not anything more than that. It's like, this feels important. I don't know, that might be a controversial take.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jordan.
Your comments, readers. Your comments below.
Anyway, that felt like a controversial take and they just bypassed it. Anyway, Carlisle was like, I'm still not really into eating vampires when he was talking to the Volturi, and they're like, wow, I don't understand that. And so he went to the New World, i.e. America. And when he was in Chicago in the 1700s, 1900s, whenever Edward was born, I don't know math or history.
1917, because he was suffering from Spanish flu.
Thank you, Rob. 1917. Edward was suffering the Spanish influenza. I feel like I'm in some kind of like history test and I'm not doing well.
Who was president of the United States in 1980? No,
Girl,
I
I
don't know.
could not fucking answer that with a gun pointed to my head. Wilson? That was the president? Anyway, he was suffering from the Spanish influenza, dying. Carla was like, I'm gonna make you into a friend because I need a friend, and I feel that. And then anyways, Edward, he takes Bella to his bedroom, and instead of having some kind of like smutty interlude, they talk about CDs. Anyway, we're rewarded through that trauma of reliving the early 2010s. With a dearth of Spider Monkey quotes. I am so mad that the movie quote was not actually in the book until I read a news article about where the movie quote came from, and then I got happy again. So in the book, they're both looking at me like I'm fucking insane, but I swear to God, there's a point behind this.
I'm waiting to see that she's insane.
That's fair. So in the book, there are no references to spider monkeys at all. There's no references to, climbing trees. They're both looking at me like I'm fucking insane, and I don't feel seen right now. But fun fact, I feel like we're not going to need to do, part 3 of the movie because I'm going to talk about it right now. Robert Pattinson handpicked the line, "You better hold on tight, Spider Monkey." There were options that did not involve Spider Monkey, and Robert Pattinson was like, "No, I want the Spider Monkey one."
Okay, not having seen the movie since it came out. I saw it 15 years ago, whenever it came out. Like,
Still
is this the scene where he throws Bella on his back when they're leaving the baseball field or on their way to the baseball field?
No, before that.
Before that?
Yeah.
Better hang on tight, Spider Monkey.
Oh, and then he climbs the tree, and then they have this picturesque view of the Puget Sound Peninsula.
Okay, yeah, no, hey, actually, credit to Robert Pattinson. That's an adorable line. That's an adorable line. I'm gonna give him credit for that one.
Okay, so they had this article. So there was a writer's strike when they were first talking about fielding the movie or whatever, and they had not finished the script for this. And so the producer or director of the movie, Melissa Hardwick, was like, I have some written in, quotes that you could do, Robert Pattinson. Pick one out of 10. And out of the options that are all very realistic, including "You're not scared of heights, are you? Hold on tight, ... Wrap your legs around me, ... Got a good grip, don't let go, ... He literally picked the Spider Monkey one. From a man that does not love Twilight at all, and is very antagonistic in all of his interviews. He really picked the Spider Monkey quote.
I would too, given those options. Wrap your legs around me.
That's fair. But I just want to emphasize the fact that the Spider Monkey quote was handpicked and was not in the book, not in the original text.
Yeah.
That's fair. He has this weird kind of moment where he's like, "Oh my God, I'm a vampire and you're a human. I could devour you at any point." And then Alice walks in and she invites them to play baseball later, the American, in quotes, vampire, end quote, pastime, except they have to go back to Bella's house first for some reason instead of just going straight to the baseball field to play baseball. And at Bella's house, Billy and Jacob are waiting, and Billy harasses her with some ominous, stay away from them, we'll be watching, in a weird protective vibe that kind of felt not overly aggressive and kind of okay. And he also asked do you know what you're getting into? Oh, okay, well, I guess we'll be here anyways if things go sideways. And that's the end of the conversation. Anyways, that's really the end of that conversation. And then Bella also has a half-assed conversation with Jessica. This is controversial, but I feel like Jessica deserves better.
I feel like both Jessica and Mike deserve better.
Jessica, Mike, Billy, and Jacob all deserve better. Bella was like not interested in anything that they were saying. They have some kind of like rando conversation. Jessica's talking about like being kissed by Mike, and Bella's like not really listening. And then Charlie comes home and Bella explains that she has like kind of sort of a boyfriend with Edward. And he's like, I thought you didn't like anyone in Forks. And he's like, well, Edward's technically isn't in Forks.
Also, he's like super glittery and built of alabaster and superhuman. So
That's fair. Again, from the 17-year-old perspective, who would not want to date Edward? So Edward comes to pick her up, and Charlie pulls the whole tough dad persona thing, but in a surprisingly like wholesome, non-aggro way. Like, I feel like this was a very reasonable conversation that was had between Charlie and Edward. Like, it was just like, you're gonna take Bella out, and he's like, yeah. And then he's like, okay, keep her safe. And then that was it. There was no like shotgun loading like there was in the movie. There was no like weird, like, you need to protect her virginity with your life kind of thing. Go, Charlie. He has like hot daddy vibes.
So in the book, he's described as having this like receding hairline and being like this like has been kind of.
They should have cast him like that, because they cast him in the movie as a fucking daddy vibe 100%.
It's the mustache.
It really is. It's the fucking mustache. I'm having an existential crisis right now.
Incels, tune in for tips.
The mustache. And now we are blessed with, supermassive black hole baseball montage until we get, the unfortunately timed intrusion by the three bad guys. If you don't know what I'm talking about, supermassive black hole, that's the movie. Again, I don't think we need a part 3, because the movie and the book are hazy and the same in my mind. Anyways, everything's fine with these like 3 bad guys in the clone family until there's a breeze. Like, again, that fucking breeze. It was in biology class and now it's coming back again. Until James like gets all like moony over murdering Bella. He's like, oh my god, I want to kill her. She smells so good. And then cue the circus.
Okay, so James appears, but with no introduction. So
none.
James, Laurent, and Victoria are all 3 brand new vampires that are like, hey, we appear out of nowhere. You guys are playing baseball. We want to play baseball too. That sounds like a fun time. And then everything is all set to go and roll until that fucking breeze happens. And James gets a fucking stick up his ass like, oh shit, that's a sniffle of human. And oh, you guys brought a snack.
I don't think that Victoria is named in this book.
Is she not?
I don't think so. I think it's only named in the movie, which is a fun fact, but I don't remember. Anyway, yeah, the circus. So Edward is dead set on driving to like Mars to get Bella safe, but Bella's like, I have like a family and stuff. And so she has this whole like big hullabaloo. I put in my notes hullabaloo, and
2 shots.
How do you even say that? Say it again.
Hullabaloo. Anyway, Bella suggests just like going back to Phoenix while the others either protect her dad or mislead James. And she just like goes about her life, apparently not caring that Edward is just living his life also, but separate from her. But then everyone accepts that plan, and Bella says some like really, frankly, fucking unforgivable fucked up things to Charlie. Again, a controversial hot take. Charlie deserves better.
He deserves me.
Whoa. I love that we went from like Charlie has like daddy energy to Jordan like, I will be your stepmom.
Yeah, oh, Jesus.
But also I understand it. He has the fucking like mustache energy. You know what it is. Anyway, she says all those fucked up things. Boo, Bella, 2 thumbs down. And then goes back to the Holland's house. So Bella and Esme switch clothes. Rosalie has a breakdown hissy fit, like, why the fuck are we helping her? And Edward and Bella exchange really sad like goodbye with like some weird like kissing and like loaded terminology. And then Bella is whisked off by Alice and Jasper to Phoenix in exactly 1 working day, even though the trip takes like 3 days by car. So 0% understand how that math works out, but also okay, I guess. They're in a hotel anyways, and everyone's like super nervous and on edge and freaked out because no one is calling with updates. And then Alice has a vision of a ballet studio, and unfortunately it's the, exact ballet studio that Bella went to as a child. That's nerve-wracking, but nobody seemed really concerned about the fact. And then something bad happens. Edward calls and apologizes for losing James and says that Victoria has been like snooping around her school. And then Bella immediately freaks out because like, oh my God, her records, her privacy, her HIPAA. And thank you, Rob. I was hoping for a laugh. And then she says that, he's probably going to come get her mom and get her. And then, maybe Edward will come to save her and they can fly off forever. And then Bella immediately starts daydreaming about a hotel room with her boyfriend, which like girls same. And then all of a sudden she gets a call from her mom. There we go. And her mother, in quotation marks, is actually James, who directs her to ditch her babysitters, i.e. Alice and Jasper, and to come to her mother's house or else. Bella's all of a sudden 100% emotionally ready to die, which like confusing because all of a sudden, like all of the times before this, you were not really ready to die. And then she ditches Alice and Jasper at the airport somehow, takes a rando Hyatt bus to the hotel, and then takes a taxi and then gets to her house and is directed to run to the ballet studio, which is around the corner.
I'm going to interrupt for just a second.
That's fair.
This is like 70 to 50 pages towards the end, if I were to hazard a guess. And this is not a short book. So the entire fucking novel has been this like buildup of an emotional relationship between Edward and Bella. And then we get this actually interesting dynamic with these outside vampires changing the environment, influencing the character dynamics. And it's only the last 70 to 50 pages.
I'm gonna interrupt as well to interject, which is not that it has been a buildup, but that it has been a description of a very rapid unfolding of a relationship. Because what do we do? Somebody mentioned the math. Like she shows up in March of the year, and then the book ends in prom.
Which is like June, mid-June.
I don't know if in our narrative format we've discussed the fact that at some point along the lines, by now, the two main characters, Bella and Edward, have declared their undying love for one another. And I mean, we're talking in the course of a few months here. All right, fine. High school students, except one of them is 100 years old. So just putting that out there.
Again, I feel like we also need to rationalize this in like real person time frame, but we're like not because again, paranormal romance.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Bella is running to the ballet studio and she describes feeling like she's running in slow motion. And I don't know if you guys have ever had like those weird realistic nightmares where you're like trying to run somewhere and you feel like you're going through fucking like quicksand. This was one of those like disturbing parallels where you're like, I know exactly what she's feeling.
Oh, I've definitely had dreams of being chased by Robert Pattinson. So
there was a lot of like weird, sultry, hefty vibes behind that. And like I subscribed to it. But also the like running through quicksand thing is not pleasant. Anyway, she gets to the we're just going to bypass that. It's fine. She gets to the ballet studio, finds James, duped her. LOL. Is anyone like really surprised? Like a vampire actually went to Florida. LOL. I don't think they'd make it out against their like first interaction with Florida man, first of all. Anyways, he duped her with a video camera VHS. How did Alice not see this? James has this like little freaky video camera set up and then, to record her death, which like BIG, yikes. He is recording this whole thing for future, sexual awarding or, he's getting something out of this, which is really disturbing.
He's a good villain. He's a good villain.
He is a good villain, but like a scary villain because he's competent. And then he reveals that like Alice was in an insane asylum her whole life, and that's why she doesn't remember anything from her human life. And he's kind of like big mad about it. And like also, why do we not talk about Alice's life anywhere throughout this novel except this little tidbit? Because it's been a while since I've read the rest of the books, but also I don't think they touch on this at all. James proceeds to eat with his food before. Oh no, James proceeds to play with his food before he eats it. And he like proceeds to break literally every single bone in Bella's body before he bites her hand for some reason, which I really don't understand why he bit her hand at the end. Like, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. And then he is absolutely fucking unalived by Edward, Jasper, and Emmett. And also, like, why didn't you do that in the first place in the baseball field when you had the chance? Like, why did you wait for all of this to happen first? And then anyway, James is unalived. Edward and the crew are trying to help Bella. Carlisle's there. And then they eventually realize that Bella has been bitten. Oh, fuck. And Carlisle says it's Edward.
Katie, it's one episode.
God help me. It is Edward's decision, which, again, interesting because isn't it Bella's decision to decide if she wants to be a vampire or not? But Edward apparently makes the decision for her. And then, if he had just decided to let her be a vampire, it would have solved all of the problems that are in the next 3 books, but he did not. And he decides to suck the venom out of her hand bite like a snake. Snake, don't step on me. That's a meme. They're both looking at me like they're confused.
No step on me. No step on
No step on snake. Oh, thank you.
I know it.
We all know it.
Seen. Anyway, the next scene, Bella wakes up in the hospital. Her mom is there and vaguely concerned about her daughter, who is, almost dead, but not, which is a fair, emotional response to your daughter almost dying. And she's also a little bit like confused about her daughter being in love with this guy who looks like a male model, and your daughter is a little bit like mid-looking. I would be concerned too, Renee. But Bella is like, no, I want to stay in Forks, and it maybe or maybe not has to do with the fact that my boyfriend is like hot as fuck. And Renee is like, okay, I guess. And then for some reason, Charlie is not at the hospital. I want to talk about this. Why is Charlie not in Phoenix to see his injured daughter? Silence. Out of character. Plot hole.
Man, I mean, mom's there and...
Renee.
No.
Yeah. Dear God, let's get to the end. Okay, so
That's fair.
she's in the hospital. She's recovering. Not Renesmee.
Whoa.
Ooh, spoiler.
Skip forward. Renee's kind of weirded out. Renee leaves. Edward is like, oh my God, I love you. It'll be fine. I'm not going to leave you. And then Bella blacks out because of medications. And then all of a sudden we get the epilogue, and Edward is taking Bella to prom. And this episode is probably nonsensical. And I love the fact that we were reviewing Twilight, which everybody knows. Thank God. Anyway, epilogue. Edward is taking Bella to the prom, but she doesn't know it's the prom, and she thinks it's some like elaborate vampire ceremony so that he can like turn her into a vampire. And then he's like, haha. And then Jacob shows up to deliver a message of warning, and he's like, oh my God, don't do it. And then everyone is really tired, and I wish this book was over. And then Edward has some like, conversation with Bella about like them loving each other, but it's like weirdly caveated of like, oh my God, I would never leave you, asterisk of maybe I would later. And then they kiss and the book ends. Cue the Paramore song. Do 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 do.
What song? I didn't realize.
That it does.
I think,
First of all,
wow, that's a lot for one episode. This is a good place to stop. We may or may not continue with a Twilight movie episode. So thank you for sticking with us with our ups and downs and our several shots and our guest speaker.
yeah.
Thank you, Rob.
I hope it was fun for you guys.
So, Rob, do you want to close us out?
Ooh, I have so many notes.
No. You don't get your
no.
notes. No notes. You get to say our closeout. So do you want to say our first call out and then he can close?
Is he going to know what that means?
Oh, yeah, that's just it from our shelf to yours, right?
What?
Yeah.
That deserves a shot, first of all.
Shibbity.
From our shelf to yours.
We'll see you on the next page.
Hi, readers. If you'd like to help us pick our next book, send us a message on Instagram.
Or if you'd like to just listen, we post new episodes every Monday and Wednesday on Spotify, Apple, and Amazon. Thanks for listening.
Bussin'.